Well, hello, and welcome back to Karborundum Quest. Now, we have a bit of a long one here. I'm just starting off by taking some of the engineers and the ancillary crew from the scrap heap space station back down to the planet. We don't have much lined up for building from the space station for a while, so I figured I'd save a little bit and bring our crew back down. So just a standard re-entry. It's an Apollo style module that I use on occasion. Part of the SSTU mod. Very, very good mod. It's just been updated for 1.3. This is still 1.2.2. And here I'm just having a look, just to give you a gauging of where I am in the tech tree. I'm starting to get to the point where I need an awful lot of science, so I'm looking at different ways of doing it and trying to do it as big as possible. One of the things that I really do want is an FTL drive of some description, so a warp drive or something along those lines. So here we are on Minmus, just basically tidying up. We're recycling some things. I'm not sure exactly what went wrong here, but I recycled everything for equipment and I didn't actually gain any equipment out of it, even though it says there I was gaining equipment while I went through everything. When I actually checked my storage, it wasn't in the storage on this base. And I'm not sure if it's stored on the other base, but yeah, I missed a lot of stuff. Bit of an annoying wasted effort because it does take a while. I don't have skilled engineers that can recycle entire crafts, so as you can see it takes a while jumping from place to place and pop. But yes, so after it did all that, there was a lot more than is shown on screen. We decided to launch another probe. Now, I've launched one of these bases. It's a base section that I've made out of the K&K parts. I saw a picture of this somewhere on Google and I thought it was genius. So as you can see, I had a small problem there. But yeah, we're just getting this up right, getting into orbit and then taking it out to minmus. It's not going too far this time, and it's the exact same rocket that went to Duna, so it's massively over engineered for what it needs to be. So all the standard maneuvers: get into orbit, circularize, jump out to Duna. And then there was a lot of palaver because what actually happened was I ran out of fuel. This is connected in a very odd way and it used some of the landing fuel out of the main section, which was a problem. So what actually happened was I took an SSTU out there, refueled the section with a kiss pipe and then landed it from there and went back the way. And yeah, it was quite a bit of pain. As you can see there, I'm having a look at how much I've got and all the issues. But it was a bit of a pain. I managed to enter orbit here. And as you can see, my transfer module is actually set up to be a bit of a scansat and a bit of a just an orbital relay. And whenever I drop them off, I just leave them there so it adds to the relay network. But yeah, in this case, I knew I didn't have enough fuel, so I left that there and then brought up an SSTU after this. I did film it, but it was just the same old stuff that you've seen umpteen times before, so I figured I'd leave it out. There you go, just grabbing any spare science and starting it scanning. And then back to the module. Now this has a lot of life support on it. It has about a year's life support for 2 crew members, but obviously as you can see it has a bit of an issue, so I was just bringing it in close. This bit here is actually shot after it got refueled, and I would just bring it in close and just aiming for a different biome than normal. Everybody lands on the flats, and I usually land on the flats as well, but I just figured I'd set it down somewhere else. This is actually testing a bit more of it. As you can see, this thing's still got parachutes on it, and I love this design, so I've been messing about with it a few times in the Skunk Works. And I've just come up with a few different versions, so I thought I'd test 2 of them out together and see how easy it was to get them down. As I've said before, I am rubbish at actual landings and flyings and stuff like this. I can do it to a manageable degree, but trying to get things so precise is a problem. And I've tried it with MechJib and I just gave up. There's too many issues with that. I've also tried it with throttle controlled avionics, and I have one successful landing from orbit from throttle controlled avionics that put me about 2 kilometers off of where I was supposed to be. And every other time I've done it, it has either crashed me or burnt so much spare fuel that it's become a bit useless. So there you go, the old landing leg problem, but I managed to save it. And a quick switch and I managed to land my little science rover. It's just a little drone rover with a solar panel on top. And this is just sending out a proper crew. The crew that was on that, it wasn't meant to be crewed, it was meant to be a drone, and I forgot. But I had 2 pilots on board, and I don't leave pilots on stations. They have different jobs to do. So this was just some engineers and some scientists that I sent out. And there we go, this is another one of my SSTOs. I absolutely love these days. You can't beat the OPT plane parts pack. And I also use the legacy pack because 2 of my favourite engines are in that. They're a tad overpowered, but they are just brilliant, and they save having to add in extra parts, and I quite like keeping parts low because some of my stations have a lot of stuff in them and it can bring my computer to a crawling halt. As I've mentioned before, I'm running on a laptop, but it is a hell of a gaming laptop. And it will still bring it down. I've run at 2 or 3 frames with certain stations, and I don't like repeating that, so that's why I'm a big fan of the SSTU mod and OPT space plane parts, even though I've got some big versions of these as well. But there we go, it's just changed over everything, so I'm bringing the pilot that was on board plus the 2 that were on the station, and I've left the engineer and the scientist there to do a bit of science. So now I'm actually in a bit of a higher orbit than usual because I'm not going straight back down to the surface just yet. I am doing a little bit of rescue of some more people off of the station. It's not really rescue, I'm just landing more people because I sent out 3 in the first transfer because it was an Apollo module, it only has 3 spaces. And I have a bigger module up here, the equivalent to the Boeing module, but I don't want to use it. I like having the ability of one spacecraft that can empty the place if needed. So here we go. Just a typical, remember to pull in a docking node. And the trick that I've found with the air brakes is actually to fan them. So you kick them out, once you get a bit of heating, drop them back in. And then repeat the process, out and in and out and in. Don't leave them out for more than a second. And so far I've never blown any. But yeah, I thought it'd show off, and yeah. So everybody was killed, and our Kerbals decided to launch a memorial for everybody that died. Although they actually respawned, although with no experience. I didn't realise I had respawning of all crew on, but it turns out I do. So this is our Julian ship that is out. The original idea was just to get into an orbit of Tylo and have a look at it. Tylo? Elo? I can't remember which one. Tylo? But yeah, we're going to have a look at a few of the planets. And I've got little probes, which were little relays. I was just going to dot them all over the Julian system just for help once we go out there. The relays are actually pure stock parts, however I made a horrible mistake and I've actually affixed the main control probe for them upside down. And I was having a bit of problems manoeuvring them. I figured out I could use throttle controlled avionics to do what I needed to do. But I have no specific place for these, so I'm just throwing them where I can. And then I realised that I was running too low on Delta V. And obviously I already have a ship to rescue. So that Delta V issue is a bit of an issue, quite a big issue for me. So I decided to kick off the last of the probes in random places, and then run a new bum back down to Karborundum as quickly as possible. I've got the life support to last for 20 years, so I could send out a rescue. But the other problem is that I've already started playing with Kerbal 1.3, and it's great fun, and the mods seem to really work. There seems to be a bit of optimization that wasn't really mentioned, but I'm getting a lot better frame rates off of it for all the mods that I have installed, which isn't all of the mods that we have for this. So that's the plan. So here we have yet another launch of a new type of launch craft. I spent a little while in the Skunk Works working out a heavy launcher, and I kind of want to stick to the only launching inside a fairing. It seems a bit more realistic. But yeah, this was my idea of a recovery craft. So it's just an RCS driven recovery craft with the dock from the mole mod, which can recycle spacecraft as well. So we just pull it out, being very untidy and whacking it against the launcher. And there we go, it's deployed, so it's ready to basically find other craft and recycle them. And then just bringing our lovely little craft back down, our little launcher vehicle. I'm quite happy with this. I've used it a few times in Skunk Works just for throwing things up into the atmosphere, and I've done the heavy load launcher. It seems to recover really fine. However, this is the one time that I messed up my re-entry, and instead of it landing on the ground, it landed in the ocean. So as you can see, it overheats slightly, but it manages to stay stable because of the fins it's kicked out. Then slow down a bit. I was slowing down because I was overshooting. I didn't want to land it in the ocean. But unfortunately that's what happened, and there's not much I could do about it. And as anybody knows, things that are tall and flip over in the ocean have a tendency to explode. So yet another SSTO. This one's going up to my little recycler. The only reason for it is just to provide a bit more control. And I wasn't entirely happy with how this worked. There's been a problem since 1.2 for me personally, where you get a very bad oscillation. So they fixed the RCS, but they caused this weird oscillation in certain craft, and it comes and goes, and it's very annoying, and it caused me a lot of problems with this, to the point where I decided that this was the last time I was going to use it. So that's just me deorbiting after I've managed to recycle the Cryo one, which was the first of the new lot of spaceships that we put up. And I just bring this little fun little craft, trying my loop-to-loop yet again, which is always a bad idea. But there you can see a little memorial below, which is actually just a good landing reference. And there you go, probably the smallest of the OPT space planes that I've ever made. So now we have a bit of a heavier launch, so I'm going back to the Mark IV system. You can fit a good sized payload in these, although I've still to work out how to make it more efficient. I'm not brilliantly efficient when it comes to launching things. But here you go, it's another section of the base. Now what I've actually done with this, as you can see in the background just there was minmus. I launched this into space and then shot out to a minmus orbit and realised that there wasn't enough life support on the main ship, so I transferred all of the crew into this lander to bring it down, just leaving Jebediah on the main ship, which meant that his 2 days of supplies got extended to 8 days, which was just enough for the return orbit. The spaceplane was on a free return trajectory. Really can't speak today. But there we go, we just land our second base and reaffix the wheels. The reason the wheels are put on in this is just purely for launch. If you can affix them in a strange way, it makes the entire system a bit flatter, and it makes it possible to fit it in different cargo bays. So there we go, just reaffixing the rover wheels. A little tip if anybody happens to be using it. Then the usual stability of the Kerbals on low gravity worlds. in we go. As you can see, the two bases are now connected by tubes. So it's now the one base. And there we go, our fantastic off-road driving. Some strange reason, TAC managed to... Oh, TCA, throttle controlled avionics, TCA, managed to bring itself back in. Now here we have just a simple recovery vehicle that I have created using the DSEV mod. I've never really seen people make rockets with this, and I needed to unload another ship. So this is the Ishimura, which is the ship that I sent down to Moho, and it's now recovered. And I'm just pulling all of their crew back off of it and bringing them back down to Kerbal. There we go, pre-deploying the parachutes just in case anything goes wrong. Trying to correct. I'm really not good at landing on a specific place, but close enough. And there we go. So just a simple little spaceship there. And then just to finish us off, I'll sort of show what was going on at Duna. So as you can see, I've taken a rover out to one of our land supply crates, and I couldn't actually get the rover out of it. And my biggest problem here is that my engineer has 0 experience and I can't level him up out here. So we're just using a pipe system, connecting the pipes and transferring across the rare materials and the equipment that are inside this little rover here. So we can bring them back to the base, and we can get a few more things inflated and set up and make the base a bit more useful. It's the thing I need to do. Is it's got it at the moment. It's a life support base. It's actually generating more life support than it's using. So we bring everything back. We try and get it sorted out. And through a lot of messing about, we start extending the base. I've now got the equipment to be able to open up and inflate a few more modules. So I just turn one into a life support module to get us more life support. Then we head out to this module, which was landed in the last episode. And because it's so far away, I came up with an idea for modifying it. And my idea was to put the wheels on it. So I pulled 2 wheels off of the actual rover and split the chassis that was attached to this, and there you can see 2 big wheels on it and 2 little wheels that came with it. This took so long to drive across here, but it's given us a lot more, not so many supplies, but a lot more actual physical equipment that we can use. And then as you can see, just grabbing the tubes and linking our tube up, and there we go, it's connected to the base. So that is a little bit of an extension. Now what I didn't realise is the science lab also takes the internal module from the Pathfinder mod, I believe it is. I always get confused by which one of Angel's mods I'm using at the one time. There's so many and they're all brilliant. But there we go, just applying some more equipment. But yeah, I'm trying to get it all sort of set up, and I realised that that actual science module is slightly convertible as well, which is brilliant. I didn't realise that, so something to be used for in the next idea. So after a bit of messing about and exploding, I just go and try and collect the other rover. Unfortunately, those wheels are too weak to actually drive it up this hill. So in the true style from The Martian, I hook the 2 rovers together and bring them back. If you're confused by that statement, I'm talking about the book, not the film. They are both brilliant. The book has obviously got a lot more in it, especially about the journey, but I love both of them. I listen to the Martian audiobook all the time, which I would recommend to anybody. R.C. Bray that narrates it is fantastic. But here we go. Now this little space plane here is actually just containing some science modules, and this is the last thing I was doing to get more science set up. So this is us for this episode. We are all scienced up and ready to go. I shall see you next time.